Let's look at shapes today. So the different kind of shapes that we can draw with our pencils. What are they? We have a triangle shape. We have a square shape. We can draw rectangle shapes. We can draw circle shapes. These are the basic shapes that we can draw. And these really are referred to as 2D shapes. That means they're two-dimensional shapes. The shapes then will become 3D forms. All right, we add another dimension to these 2D shapes. So we have a triangle shape that becomes a pyramid or a prism. A square becomes a cube. Notice that these 3D forms, we can see at least 3 sides at one time from any angle. We have a rectangle shape. A circle becomes a sphere. And then we have one more form to draw, and that is a cylinder. See that? And I'll just adjust this here at the bottom so it's a better looking cylinder. Awesome. All right, so we have our 2D shapes, our 3D forms. Now I want to talk to you about something called shading. All right? Shading. That's when we add shadows with contrasting lights to our drawings to make them more believable that these 3D forms have dimension and form. So if we take a box, let's take a box right here. I'll show you a shading box that we will create, and this is a good practice to make a habit of, and that is to practice your shading. So we have 4 boxes here. On this side of the box, this is going to be your blackest, your darkest shadows. This box right here will be your lightest box. We will put at least a 75% value of black in this box because we want to have a nice even transition from light to dark. And this box here will have a very small percentage of, or value percentage, a little bit more. So we can see the transition from light to dark. That will help us to create our 3D forms to have more of a realistic value to our forms. Before we can add any shadows to our forms, we have to pinpoint where the light source is coming from. So let's say that the sun is over here. Here's our sun, right? We'll make a very simple looking sun over here. Okay, there's our sun. So if we have a prism, right, make our prism. This side will be the lightest. This side will be the lightest, and this side will be the darkest because this is facing away from the sun. The sun cannot reach it because of this lighter side. And then the prism will cast a shadow onto the ground. When we have a square or a cube shape, the same principle applies. This will be your darkest side. And actually, this top part will be your lightest because now the sun is hitting from the top right here. See that? This will have a value percentage less than the darkest shadow. Outstanding. And let's draw in our rectangle shape. So we'll have our rectangle shape right here. We'll draw in our rectangle form. Same thing, this will be the darkest side. And this side of our rectangle will have a value percentage less than the darkest side of our rectangle form. And of course, I forgot about the shadows on the cube, right? The cube will have a shadow. And the further away the shadow gets from the object, the less value percentage will be in that shadow. Same thing on this side. All right. The value of darkness gets less. It becomes more of a gray color. Let's draw in our sphere, right? Starts off as a shape, a circle shape. And then we'll go ahead and shade in our sphere. Now the sphere is circular. It has a circular shadow pattern to it. All right. So I try to create one unique shadow. And then now it'll have a darker curved shadow as it gets further away from the sun. And I'm going to add a little bit of a white highlight because that's where the light is the most intense on this sphere. With a shadow that comes on the opposite side of where the sun is shining on this sphere. See that? So the light is the most intense right in this location of our sphere. Let's draw our last form, and that is the cylinder shape. So we have an oval shape right here. We'll bring in the sides, okay, and then the bottom. Right, make sure that bottom is curved. This will be the lightest side of the cylinder. This will have the darkest side of the cylinder. This is where the shadow is the most intense. And then from that darkest part of the shadow, we want to lessen the intensity of that darkness as the cylinder wraps around itself, right? Because the cylinder is curved and light tends to diminish itself as it gets further away from the main side that it's the lightest. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and bring in a shadow right there on the bottom. So light tends to diminish as it gets further away from the light source. There you go, 2D shapes, 3D forms, and the technique of shading. Outstanding.